Hello everyone, my name is Fawaz Sheikh. I'm part of Contrail Solutions Group. In today's demo, I have an environment where we are going to bring up pods in Kubernetes, and those pods, once they come up, they will be able to communicate based on firewall policies, based on tags. They will be able to communicate with workloads running in OpenStack environment and another environment in OpenStack plus bare metal. So as you can see here, the three environments that I have are development, development US, development China, and production in US. It's a three-tier app with web, app, and DB, where web can talk to app and app can talk to DB. What we'll also show is basically based on the tags which are part of the workloads or the pods that they come up with, they will not be able to talk to different environments based on the policy. So the intent here is that we're going to create one firewall policy or one policy framework which will be applicable to three different environments. So the three-tier app which we will bring up in the Kubernetes environment will be able to talk to LDAP services running on bare metal, and also it will be able to communicate to app and OpenStack environment as well. So the first thing we want to do is log on to the Contrail Web UI. So once you log in, here we see 4 virtual routers, one control, analytic, config, and database. If you go to our virtual routers, we see one compute as Kubernetes Minion. So let's click on that and see how many interfaces are up. So here we see one tap interface, which means there's one workload which is currently running. Let's go back to the dashboard and look at how many instances we have. So we have a total of 8 instances with 12 interfaces and 8 virtual networks. So if you go to the Kubernetes master, and let's see what we have. So first of all, we're going to look at the web YAML. So here is where we are defining the label. So in Kubernetes environment, there is no concept of tags, but only labels. So next, let's look at the policy. So if we look at the web to app YAML, here we see the policy is based on tier. So the tier is web to app. Okay. So let's make sure there are no currently parts which are running. So next we're going to launch a small script, and the script basically brings up my 3-tier app. So it'll bring up 3 parts, web, app, and DB. So let's run this. Let's put a watch on the parts. So here we see the status of these parts. They're up now. And if you look on the right hand side, these are all the labels that we defined in our YAML file earlier. I'm going to go ahead and apply the policies. So once I've applied my policies and my parts are up as well. So next we're going to go to the Contrail Web UI and basically see the change of the number of instances. So we have 8 and 12, and now we have 11 and 15. So there are 3 more instances and 3 more interfaces. So now if we go back to the virtual router, the Kubernetes Minion, here we see the 3 IP addresses that are provided by Contrail. What we've done in OpenContrail is have this visualization aspect, right? So in the visualization, you can basically select a time range. So for this particular demo, I'm going to say that every traffic which is currently running, and in my project, which is queued. So as you can see, I just brought up my environment. I brought up my three parts. So obviously there is no traffic running. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log on to my parts. So let's go to web dev. So if I go to my web dev and let's do ls, and I'm going to run a small setup script. The setup script basically enables SSH, daemon on each of these parts. So I've enabled it on web and app. And then next what I'm going to do is run a small script from my web. So before running this script, here's the topology, right? First test we're going to do is web dev pod to app dev pod. So based on the policy that we created from Kubernetes, the traffic will go through, right? So this is all the traffic which is allowed. The second traffic is web dev pod to bare metal, right? And that traffic is also allowed. So the bare metal server is 10.102.44.98. The next thing is web dev pod to app dev on OpenStack. So this traffic is also allowed. But one of the key aspects here is to validate the traffic from Contrail visualization. So now if we go ahead and refresh, we should be able to see this traffic. So if we click on that, it tells us what type of traffic it was. So it was some ICMP and SSH. It also tells me the local IP, which is 249, and the local virtual network. And if I further click on it, it tells me the remote IP. So definitely this is really powerful. So if I'm a CSO admin, I know exactly where my application came up and where my application initiated the session and where the session got terminated scenario, right? So next what we're going to do is we're going to generate some traffic which should be denied, right? So web dev pod to DB. So in our policy, if you remember, we did not have a policy which allows our web traffic to talk directly to DB. So hence you see that traffic being dropped. And likewise, web dev pod to DB dev should also be dropped, right? And then lastly, but not least, dev pod to production. So development should not be able to talk to production, right? And we see that traffic drop as well. So next we're going to basically go back to our visualization and hit refresh. And once we do that, it basically gives us all the traffic that we just initiated, right? So it's basically telling the CSO admin exactly where the traffic was initiated, what type of traffic it was, and the color coding gives me in a nutshell what the traffic looks like. Click on the local IP, it will tell me the remote IP. And not only the remote IP, it's also telling me the remote virtual network. And we also have a little filter. This filter basically, you can use a time range. You can basically say that I would like to see my traffic from Sunday to, let's say, today. So it gives me a range and gives me the ability as a CSO admin to go even back in time to basically look at the flows. And also you can display based on application, deployment site, and so on. And on the top, you can also look at the different projects. So right now, I'm looking at all the projects, right? But this information can be a little detailed. So how can I zoom in? I could actually go to traffic per project. Okay, so that's what we had for today. Hopefully this quick demo for Contrail Security was very helpful.